Today's story is entitled, Mr. Brown, Will You Please Open the Door? Written by Joyce E. Brooks, illustrated by Dantrell Robinson, and edited by Carrie Banks. Once upon a time, in a small town called Possibilities, there was a big red door on top of the hill. No one knew how or where the door came from, but everyone could see it, and they knew the door was special. Behind the big red door is where dreams would come true. The folks in the town told stories about people who went through the door carrying their hopes and dreams for the future. When they returned, all their dreams had come true. Mark and Mandy Stone have always lived in the town of Possibilities. They married after college and had 2 children, Destiny and Trevor. Destiny was 9 years old, and Trevor was just a baby. One day, Mr. and Mrs. Stone were in the kitchen cooking dinner together. They were talking about what it was like to walk through the big red door. They had very happy memories about their dreams coming true. What Destiny heard made her very excited. She wondered what dreams would come true if she went through the big red door. After dinner, Mr. and Mrs. Stone tucked Destiny in her bed. Destiny was afraid to sleep without her night lamp. She asked her mom to leave it on. Mom and Dad gave Destiny a kiss. Good night, love you, sweet dreams, see you in the morning, they said. Before they could close the door, Destiny was fast asleep. All night, Destiny dreamed about the big red door. She dreamed of becoming a famous tennis player, an internationally known chef, a doctor, and an astronaut. The next morning after breakfast, Destiny wasted no time climbing the hill to the big red door. She was looking forward to going through the door and making all her dreams come true. Destiny didn't know that she was in for a surprise when she reached the top of the hill. Mr. Brown was an old man who sat next to the big red door. Mr. Brown read the newspaper and watched people come in and out of the big red door every day. He enjoyed seeing the excitement on their faces when they went inside the big red door. He really enjoyed hearing the great stories of success when they came out the door. When Destiny arrived, she was surprised to see Mr. Brown sitting in a rocking chair. "Hello, my name is Destiny. What's your name?" she asked. A deep voice rumbled from behind the newspaper.
"My name is Mr. Brown."
"Mr. Brown, will you open the door?" Destiny asked politely.
"No," said Mr. Brown.
She did not expect Mr. Brown to say no. "Why not?" she asked.
"You are not tall enough," replied Mr. Brown.
Destiny was very disappointed that Mr. Brown would not open the door. You could see the disappointment in her big brown eyes. Destiny lowered her head and walked back home. Once she returned home, she cheered up when she saw her little brother Trevor. He was happy to see her. Trevor had been looking at the toys on the shelf all morning. He could not reach the toys because he was just a baby. Destiny reached up and picked the ball off the shelf for Trevor. He smiled and laughed with joy. Destiny realized she was tall enough. She thought to herself, Mr. Brown was wrong. I am tall enough. The next day, Destiny climbed the hill again to go through the big red door, so all her dreams would come true. As she climbed the hill, she kept saying, I am tall enough. I am tall enough. She knew Mr. Brown would open the big red door today. Destiny was in for a surprise. When she reached the top of the hill, she saw Mr. Brown sitting by the door reading his newspaper. Mr. Brown, she said, I am tall enough.
Okay,
he grunted. Will you open the door? Destiny asked.
No,
said Mr. Brown. She was not expecting him to say no again. "Why not?" she asked.
"You are not smart enough," replied Mr. Brown.
Destiny was extremely disappointed that Mr. Brown would not open the door. She walked home wondering why she wasn't smart enough. But Destiny soon found out she was very smart. Destiny's mom greeted her when she walked inside the house. She told her mom that Mr. Brown would not open the big red door because she was not smart enough. Mrs. Stone handed Destiny her report card. She had made all A's. "I guess Mr. Brown was wrong," she said. With a huge smile on her face, Destiny said, "It ain't over." The next morning, with her report card in hand, Destiny climbed the hill. She just knew she was headed through the big red door today. When she arrived, she showed Mr. Brown her report card. He looked at all her A's and said,
"Very good. You are smart."
Destiny grinned and asked, "Mr. Brown, will you open the door?"
"No," said Mr. Brown.
"Why not?" she asked.
"You are not pretty enough," replied Mr. Brown.
Destiny was heartbroken to hear that Mr. Brown wouldn't open the big red door because she wasn't pretty enough. She returned home and sat under the tree. Mrs. Stone looked out the window and saw Destiny. She came outside and sat with her under the tree. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Mr. Brown said I wasn't pretty enough," Destiny replied. Her mom looked at her and said, "Destiny, you are more than pretty. Never let anyone make you think less of yourself or stop you from making your dreams come true." This made Destiny feel much better. She knew now that Mr. Brown was wrong. The next morning, looking as beautiful as ever, Destiny climbed the hill. She knew that she would go through the big red door today and all her dreams would come true. When Destiny arrived, she did not waste any time. She said, "Good morning, Mr. Brown. Will you open the door?"
"No," replied Mr. Brown.
"Why not?" she asked.
"You are not brave enough," he said.
This was the fourth day Destiny would go up the hill and not go through the big red door. Walking home, she thought of a way to prove she was brave. That night, after putting Trevor to bed, Mr. and Mrs. Stone went to Destiny's room to tuck her in. She asked her dad to turn off the night lamp. Her dad replied, "You are a brave little girl. I am proud of you." They kissed her good night and said, "Good night. Love you. Sweet dreams. We'll see you in the morning." Her dad turned off the lamp and closed the door. As he was closing the door, Destiny's dad could hear her talking to God. "Thank you for my mommy, daddy, and my little brother Trevor. Help me to be brave and help Mr. Brown to not be so mean. Amen." Destiny woke up the next morning feeling great. Nothing happened last night. Destiny felt like she had won an Olympic gold medal for bravery. Now she was more determined than ever. Destiny quickly ate her breakfast so she could climb the hill again. She knew if she could go through the big red door, all her dreams would come true. When she arrived at the top of the hill, she saw Mr. Brown sitting in the rocking chair reading the newspaper. "Mr. Brown," she said, "I have climbed this hill 4 times. Each time you said I was not enough, and you have been wrong every time." Before Destiny could say another word, Mr. Brown put his paper down and looked at her. "I will not open the door for you," he said. "Why not, Mr. Brown?" she asked. "You do not believe enough," he replied. Destiny did not know what to think now. She did not understand why Mr. Brown was so mean and why he would not open the door for her. She decided to give up. My dreams will never come true because of me, old Mr. Brown, she thought. Later that night, Destiny thought about what Mr. Brown said. You do not believe enough. Then it hit her like a meteorite out of the sky. She thought to herself, I am not enough. I am more than enough. I am tall. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am brave. And I'm strong. I am nice. I am polite. And I am not giving up. I am going to walk through the big red door. It ain't over, Mr. Brown. It ain't over. Destiny went to bed and anxiously waited for the morning to come. The next morning, Destiny ran up the hill to see Mr. Brown, but she did not come alone. She brought a firm belief in her abilities. She was confident that she could achieve anything. She was not giving up on her dreams. Mr. Brown, I am tall, smart, beautiful, brave, and I believe I am more than enough. She asked Mr. Brown one last time, will you please open the door? Mr. Brown replied, no, Destiny. With tears in her eyes, she asked, why, Mr. Brown? Why? Mr. Brown put down his newspaper, smiled, and said, because you already have more than enough to open the door yourself. Destiny was shocked and happy at the same time. She was shappy. She realized she held the power all along. Destiny had more than enough to open the door to her future and to see her dreams come true. Destiny placed her hand on the doorknob and slowly she turned. The door was finally opened. Destiny walked through the big red door. As she closed the door, she smiled and thanked Mr. Brown for teaching her a very valuable lesson. Believe in yourself and never give up on your dreams. Regardless to how old you are, what you look like, where you live, who your parents are, if you're cool or not, if you're popular or not, the color of your skin, your gender, or your interests, you are more than enough to open the door and make your dreams come true. The end.